Hello wrestling fans, the Wrestling Wizard here, and welcome to another video. And what an episode of Smackdown we got this week, of course held at Madison Square Garden. I'm specifically going to talk about the Tribal Court. Roman Reigns being put on trial, his position as the Tribal Chief being questioned, because that was just cinema again. Over 30 minutes I think it was. And I don't know how much of this is being confirmed, but allegedly this week's episode of Smackdown was the highest grossing domestically episode of WWE Smackdown of all time. And I'm not surprised, because the WWE product creatively is in such safe hands with Triple H and the team built around it. And for those that are skeptical about Vince McMahon being around, which he is very much part of all this, WWE have delivered. And the storylines have made sense logically, specifically the Bloodline storyline. So of course, we're going to talk about that. Now, after this week's episode of SmackDown, it's pretty much all but been confirmed that we are going to get, Roman Reigns is going to accept Jey's challenge. Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal title. That's still a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? It's going to be the main event, surely. And of course, it's going to bring up so many questions. Is Jey going to be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns? I do think there's two other legit candidates. We'll cover that later in the video also that need to go into the conversation. Is Solo Sikoa going to turn on Roman Reigns? Is Paul Heyman, the wise man, going to turn on Roman Reigns? Let's not forget, Roman Reigns fired Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman surely hasn't forgot that a little while ago. Of course, he rehired him, but only to benefit himself, of course, in Roman Reigns, the narcissist, the sociopath, the egomaniac, only to get his own way, to use the wise man to get an advantage, like he did with Jimmy and Jey and does now with Solo, seemingly as his new right-hand man. Are we going to get The Rock show up? Are we going to get Rikishi show up? One of the elders, and Arthur and Sika at SummerSlam? Like, it genuinely is so intriguing. For it to be the main event, which I'm sure it will be, there's going to be a lot of question marks. Now, if you missed this week's episode of SmackDown, I'm very quickly going to skim through really what happened. So basically, we had Jimmy and Jey come out to the ring. They started talking, and then the wise man came down to the ring and then was basically trying to shut up the Usos. And the Usos told Paul Heyman to shut up. And Paul Heyman essentially said that there's only one man that he will answer to when they tell him to shut up, essentially. And he was obviously referring to Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns came out. But Solo Sikoa didn't seem very pleased about this. He sort of took the mic from Paul Heyman, tossed it out the ring. And essentially what he was saying indirectly is, look, you also answered to me. You know, take me as a credible force. Roman Reigns laughed off last week the thought of Solo Sikoa being the Tribal Chief. Roman Reigns feels if anyone was going to be the Tribal Chief, it would be Jey Uso. And then you get this swerve. It seemingly looks like that Roman Reigns is going to give up his position as the Tribal Chief, head of the table, sinks to his knees, gives up his leg, puts it round the neck of Jey Uso, sobs a tear or two in the process. And at that moment, of course, as a fan, you knew Roman Reigns was playing games. As soon as he went into that knee position, I thought he's going to hit the low blow. And of course he did. But if you think about this whole storyline narrative, especially linked with Jey and Roman, the whole time Roman has manipulated Jey emotionally. And just for that brief few seconds, he had convinced Jey that he was going to give up his title. Now, does this show also how much Jey Uso wants to be the Tribal Chief, the head of the table? How's that going to sit with Jimmy later down the line if that were to be the case? Because let's not forget, before Jey Uso swerved us all and came out of the bloodline, delivered that super kick on Roman Reigns, he did sort of go to town with the idea that when Jimmy was put on the sidelines in the pandemic era, that it was a blessing in disguise really for Jey, because he came main event Jey, took his game to the next level. But Jey has more of that edge for me out of the two in the Usos. They're super competitive. Is there then going to be friction down the line with those two moving forward? And then we had Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa viciously beat down Jimmy Uso, so much so he got sent to hospital. and then Jey had to leave the arena to go and check up on his brother, and then came back later and then issued the challenge, of course, to Roman Reigns. Challenged him to a match for Roman's title. And I love the subtle details, like Roman Reigns is like, drop it. when Jey held up the title, like the thought of Jey even getting his mitts on that title infuriates Roman Reigns. And it's just such a cool dynamic. And if we look at all the superstars individually, there's so many layers to this. Solo Sikoa, of course, questioned a few weeks back the fact that Roman Reigns laughed in his face, the thought of him being the tribal chief, the fact that he dropped that microphone from Paul Heyman, the fact that he picked up Roman Reigns' lei, looked at it, was hesitant to pass it to Roman Reigns, back again, of course, after Roman Reigns put that swerve on Jey Uso. And of course, Roman Reigns still tribal chief, head of the table as it stands. He ain't going to give that up. He's an egomaniac. So you've got that dynamic. You've also got the wise man. You know, how is he thinking? He's always got an ace card up his sleeve. Imagine if he swerved Roman and then pledged his alliance to Solo Sikoa later down the line. He believes that Solo is the future. If you go back to their matchup, of course, at Money in the Bank, the Usos versus Solo and Roman, the Bloodline Civil War, if you look at the end of that match, Solo was the one that picked Roman Reigns back up. Remember when Roman Reigns delivered the spear, and in sync with that, Solo Sikoa delivered the Samoan spike on the Usos, and then he was going to go for that double stack pin, and they kicked out. Solo Sikoa was very much the one that rallied, picked back up Roman Reigns. So he seems to have more of that fighting edge. He can snap Roman Reigns out of lulls that he's in. Essentially, he's an asset to Roman Reigns. Without Solo Sikoa, where would Roman be? Solo saved him at Clash at the Castle. He saved him at WrestleMania against Cody Rhodes. And Roman Reigns is 2-0 in the last PLEs in matches. And yes, they're not single ones, but he has been pinned. He is vulnerable. Jey Uso seemingly has got Roman Reigns' number. And then, of course, you've got Jimmy on the sidelines. What's he going to do when he comes back? Is he jealous of the way that Jey is getting pushed? Is he loyal through and through? Blood is thicker than water sort of thing to the very end. And the thought of Jimmy sort of turning on Jey is unthinkable. But when you think of the storyline dynamic moving forward, you've got to think they've got to get a way out of SummerSlam. I don't think Jey Uso is going to beat Roman Reigns. I think it would be a fairy tale victory. It makes sense in regards to the Bloodline storyline. Things coming full circle theoretically would actually be at Payback this year, because Payback was when Roman Reigns won the belt from The Fiend and Braun Strowman. Didn't pin The Fiend, by the way, pinned Braun Strowman. So are they going to end things there? How is it going to tie up? Is The Fiend going to be involved? You can't rule it out, because that would be logical when you think of the full circle. But also, we can't ignore Jey Uso being the main part of this Bloodline act. You know, Jey and Roman going at it to fight for supremacy, if you like, who was going to be the tribal chief initially in this whole storyline. So Jey to win, logically, would make a lot of sense. But WWE aren't daft. They know that they can continue this Bloodline storyline even further. There's so many dynamics to it. I guess we're going to get those answers at SummerSlam. I want you to get down in the comments section, share your thoughts and opinions, because personally, I can only really see it going a billion directions. Literally, it's so unpredictable. I was trying to think what is the logical way. I don't think they're going to go with Jey Uso. And if you look at other candidates for ones being the one to dethrone Roman Reigns, you can't rule out Cody Rhodes. You still can't rule out Cody Rhodes in all of this as well. Why did WWE keep swerving him away from the World Heavyweight title? Surely because he's going to go for that Roman title, the undisputed title. But at the same time, can they get their way both times over? Can Jey get the W, be the one, and then Cody still beats Roman when he maybe gets the belt back at a later date, potentially? Is Roman and Rock still on the table? Like, we don't know what their plans are moving forward, but we can't rule out for one single second one of Roman Reigns' former brothers within the Shield in Seth freaking Rollins. He never got his rematch for the Royal Rumble 2022. He's got Roman's number. He lives in Roman Reigns' head rent-free. We can't rule out Seth freaking Rollins. Now, of course, he's a world champion at the moment, but he can lose that belt. He may potentially lose that belt this year. Would he be a logical winner? Could he go through the traditional path of winning the Royal Rumble? I personally think it's going to be Gunther, but we'll have to wait and see. There's just so many layers to this. It's so unpredictable, but I'm pretty sure Roman's going to accept. We're going to get Jey versus Roman at SummerSlam. I don't think they're going to go all in WWE with Jey being the one. I would not be surprised in the slightest if, like, Jimmy cost Jey. Like, I know that sounds out there. I know that sounds like, why would he do it? But it would add fresh layers. You could have a Jimmy and Jey feud. You can move the Roman Reigns feud on. Have some layers with Solo Sikoa as well thrown in there as well. It's highly unlikely. It's just an out there theory. But you never know. Never say never. He's on the sidelines now, at least for the short term. Jimmy, that is. So how are they going to bring him back into the fold? Surely he's just going to be on Jey's side, right? You'd think. But WWE like to swerve us. Thank you so much for watching the video. As always, be very much appreciated if you could like the video, share the video, and even better, subscribe if you're new. And we'll catch you in the next one.